I'm Jeff Cornwall, and this is the Entrepreneurial Mind. Today, my guest is Peter Markum with Dev Digital. We'll be back to talk with Peter after this moment.
Talkopolis programming is sponsored by the following. Highland Hills, a multicultural, diversified funeral home supporting the entire Davidson County community. Visit our website at www.highlandhillsfuneralhome.com or call us at 615-650-5555.
Welcome, Peter. Good to have you here.
How you doing? Thank you, Doctor.
I'm doing good. So, as I understand it, you started out in the liquidation business.
Right.
Okay. Talk about kind of how you get into that and sort of that early career, because that led to where you are now with Dev Digital too in a lot of ways.
Right. Way back in Louisville, I became attracted to the idea of buying things for less than they're worth, and then selling them for less than they're worth. So I started.
That's an age-old business model.
It's an age-old business model.
You know, when we were building healthcare facilities on the cheap and bootstrapping, that's how we'd get our kitchen equipment and furniture, and it's been around a long time.
So I came to Nashville. Computerland asked me to come here 25 years ago. So I owned the Computerlands in Nashville, Huntsville, Birmingham. Was good. Was okay business. We did a lot of business. But I found a lender came to me and said, "Will you bid on this failed store?" So I did, and then they told me I'd won it for some stupid number I'd given them. Fast forward maybe 2 years later, I actually had to call a fire extinguisher company because I had a room completely full of fire extinguishers, because I would get 1, 2, or 3 fire extinguishers out of our building.
Right.
So I had bought hundreds of businesses and transitioned. It became an arbitrage business between Europe, the Far East, and Nashville.
So not only were you playing with merchandise, we were playing with currency exchange too.
We didn't, almost all that went down in dollars that day, so I didn't have to worry about translation at that point.
Right.
I worry about that more today, but a company, let's say Compact, we're being urged by the stock market not to have too much inventory, so let's say the 28th on the end of a quarter, they would want to sell $5 million worth of X with U.S. part numbers. I would buy it for less than wholesale.
Right.
And we would ship it FedEx to Nashville.
So typically you would have customers already wanting something and you'd find it. So you're not guessing the market, you're not trying to figure out, well, maybe I can do something with this. You've got customers lined up?
We would know what there was sell-through on.
Right.
So a lot of it was how much money could I borrow at any one point? How big could I make it? Or if it was an uncertain situation, we dropped the price. If there was any uncertainty, the price fell as a function of uncertainty.
So do you have any hard lessons along the way at first? I mean, because that sounds like a business that you're probably going to learn from some successes, but also some bumps in the road.
That was a good business. I mean, that was a really good business. It was a fun business.
Yeah.
And no, there were not a lot of heartaches in that business. I sold the business to somebody here in Nashville. And eventually, as a lot of founders do, they didn't want me anymore.
Right.
So I founded a new liquidation company called Essex, or Bargain Hunt as they're known now.
Yep.
A bunch of people came with me, maybe 16 or 20 of the NCO people came with me to Essex in 2000. We became the #1 eBay in the world. I have a big IT background. So we had 400,000 square feet out on off Thompson Lane, and we built the #1 eBayer in the world. And long story, but we became un-eBayed.
Is that because of the changes that eBay went through, or because I know that disrupted a lot of people that were playing in that space?
They took away our license.
Yeah.
That got litigated, and we were happy at the end of the litigation, but I can't talk about that.
Gotcha.
But it got us out of the eBay business. So we opened a retail store, and today there's 24 retail stores. We do that and Amazon in that business, and that does high six figures, in the Mid-South area.
So you got out of that business.
I had a great talent pool. It's kind of like listening to Nick a few minutes ago.
Right.
I had this great talent pool, and it's either use them or lose them.
Right.
So I said, look, I gave them majority.
Sometimes we kind of get in the way, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I went to them and I said, I'll sell out a book. I want to stay partners with you, but I'll take a minority position. You run the business. I'll stay behind it. And I bought the building next door. And I went back into router. I went into upscale liquidation of Cisco. This is in the dot-bomb era.
Right.
And so we founded a company called Wilhagen Ventures. And we started going to the auctions and buying things, culminating in, we went to the Enron auction and bought most of the assets of the Enron broadband division, where you're saying from that pole to that pole, we'll give you $160,000. It was unbelievable.
Right.
It was crazy. And me and a friend built a fiber network across America and part of Europe, and ran a network for a while, 4 or 5 years, doing, we were part of the Akamai. We were a wholesale bandwidth play. So here in town it was people like ISDNet,
Right.
8 or 10 of the regional telephone companies in Tennessee, MountainNet, and all these people.
You just provided the pipe and
We
they filled it up.
charter. We did 7 states of charter traffic to the home user. It was getting bigger and bigger.
So you sold that business as
We
well?
merged it out.
Okay.
Took a fair ass whipping on that transaction. It's tough business. I
Right.
mean,
Well, it's a commodity, basically.
yeah.
Right.
We got in about 22 a meg. When we exited, it was at a good colo. It was $1 a meg.
Because that's kind of a different model than what you're doing liquidation at that point. You were dealing with probably much tighter margins, weren't you?
Our failed theory was that if we took assets we were buying for 5 cents on the dollar and put them into play against, as wholesale bandwidth providers, against the larger, the XOs and people like that, that
Right.
we could have a significantly lower price point, but everyone solved their price problem by filing bankruptcy, all the big. So it turned out my price advantage on the equipment turned out to be 0 because they all just filed bankruptcy and they didn't pay either. So
Right.
I may have paid more at 5 cents on the dollar than they paid going bankrupt. So we had a small programming division in that business, and we were programming for people. So I went to my partner today and I said 2 things, good and bad news. He said, what is it? I said, the bad news, you're losing your job. He said, what's the good news? I said, go talk to your wife, and if you'll tough it out a couple of years, we can make this into something. I said, but it's going to be really hard for 2 years. So that was 5 years ago, 6 years since we owned the company together. And today we have 60 people and doing mainly PHP development work and building apps for people here in town.
So that's Dev Digital.
Dev Digital.
And in looking over your website, it looked like to me is you kind of play in 2 spaces. Is that right? You're both doing tech solutions, but also building out apps, products for people, or
We've done about 60 apps so far,
Right.
and for people, really little apps you'll never hear about that didn't make it, all the way up to Depew, which is a healthcare, a large medical device company that we're building very large, very sophisticated apps for that take a couple of $1,000, mostly used in the enterprise space where I think that's a lot of the future of apps is where for one specific purpose, in this case Depew reps or users, to identify needs or solutions that they can help physicians with or surgeons with. So
you're seeing some growth then in that business at this point in time, and plan to ride this one out for a while.
a lot. Yeah, this is, we've got a program running in all the Home Depots that do in-store circulars. Tribune Media is using us for Ace Hardware and Mattis for Sunny Inserts,
Right.
Developing their products. And then just, every week there's another 1 or 2 really, it's really fun. I mean, it's not fun every day, but it's a grind at times. But you hear all these interesting things and you learn something different constantly, and to that part, that is fun.
So do you have a pretty big tech staff for those 60 people then? Is it a lot of developers?
About 45 developers.
And are they all here?
15 are here.
Okay.
45 are in a company we bought way back in the fiber days 7 years ago in India.
Okay, so you own a company in India.
We own a company in India.
All right, so tell me a little bit about how that works, because that to me, there's a lot of nightmares about the whole outsourcing tech.
Well, see, since we own it, our average employee's been there 3.5 years. So it's not, we had a guy celebrate his 7th anniversary last week. the leadership, I mean, it's not unlike here. They speak great English, most of them, and they have this. Yeah, there's by us giving them a lot of stability, we pay up a little bit.
Right.
So because we're knocking heads with the Googles, I mean, all the American companies
Right.
have some offshore capacities, so we pay up a little bit to keep firm knowledge at the company. No, we're getting ready to get a bigger building.
So how often do you have to put boots on the ground over there in India?
About every 10 months or a year.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Right. More of them are here going to grad school. We've got 3 or 4 going to grad school here in America now.
That's fascinating. So you've solved the tech problem by keeping it in-house, but building a bigger pool to draw from then, basically.
Right. So, yeah, so like PHP people, we have 22 people.
Yeah.
So we almost always have people available for any, we can move people around and keep projects moving down if somebody's sick or.
Right. 24 hours a day, too.
24 hours a day.
Very cool. Well, I look forward to having you back again sometime soon and learn a little bit more about the progress of this new venture.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Peter.